Hello and welcome back to the channel. On today's tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you a requested video of how to make a three-part corset with a flace sleeve. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. So here on my pattern paper, I've gone ahead to mark out my basic measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, and shoulder to waistline. After that, I added about 5 inches to get my basque. And I'm going to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. My shoulder is 14 inches divided by 2. I have 7 inches. And I'll be adding half to it, making it 7 and a half, because we're attaching sleeve to this dress. Then I'll go down by 1 inch and I'll connect it all the way to my shoulder point this way. So we are taking the upper part of this pattern as our shoulder line. Now I'll be marking a basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches, which will be serving as a guide for this pattern, but will not be making use of this actually. So after I'm done doing that, next is to find your armhole or chest line. To do that is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. So my bust is 33 divided by 6 and I'll add 1.5 inches, and after that I'll make sure that what I have on my shoulder, that is 7.5, I'll mark it back at that point and I'll go ahead to connect, drawing a straight line. So I'm going to measure what I have from my chest line to my bust point, which is about 1 inch, and I'm going to go ahead to draw a straight line at that point. This is just to make sure that I have a straight line for my armhole. So I'll go ahead and divide what I have at my armhole into 2, and I'll come in by half inch. After that, I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is about 8.3 inches, and I'll connect it down to the armhole and to the upper part of my shoulder. Next step I'm going to take is to mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2, which is your bust span divided by 2. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5 inches. So I will start marking from the beginning part of my pattern and I'll mark it all the way down to the lower part of my pattern. After I'm done doing this, I'm going to place my ruler and I'm going to connect all those lines, drawing a straight line. So after I'm done marking that out, the next step I'll take is to go up by 2 inches. So you can use 1.5 inches. Why I'm using 2 inches is that I don't want to reveal much cleavage, and that is where my cup will start, and I'll draw a line that will serve as a guide. Now I'll be marking 1 inch on both sides, and also at my under bust I will do that, at my waistline I will also do that, and down to my pattern. So this is my dart intake for this pattern. So if you're plus size, go ahead and use 1.5 inches at your under bust, at your waist, and also at the upper part. So after this I'll go ahead to place my French curve and I will draw out, and also draw out the other side of my cup. Also place your French curve touching your bust down to your under bust, and then go ahead to place from your bust, you're going to connect to that 1 inch you took on top. So if you marked 1.5 inches, you're going to connect it. But if your bust is on the bigger size, you can go ahead and calculate it. I have a video on how to do that, or you can go ahead and just use 1.5 inches on one side and use 2 or 2.5 inches on the other side, depending how big or busty the person is. So now I'm going to go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3, and I'll measure that intake, which is 1 inch on both sides. So for this pattern I won't be adding my sewing allowance because my pattern paper is small. I will be doing that when I'm drafting, when I'm cutting out on the main dress. So I'm going to go ahead to mark my under bust. My under bust is 28 divided by 4. I have 7. Measure the 2 inches that intake and replace. At the waistline, I'm going to go ahead to mark the waistline. So for this pattern I want to take out 2 inches for my waist. So my actual waist is 28 minus 2 inches. I have 26 inches. 26 divided by 4, I have about 6.5, and I'll measure the dart intake, 2 inches dart intake, replace it, and after that I'll go ahead to connect my pattern all the way up this way. So after I'm done connecting, so if you're wondering why I didn't connect at the lower part, this is a basque, so I'll just do that directly after I'm done cutting out the other part of my pattern. So for my chest line, I'll go in by ½ inch. So if you don't want yours to start at that point, you can go down by ½ inch after your chest line. So I'll go ahead and place my curved rule, and I'm going to go ahead to connect it to my under bust, and I'll go ahead to outline it this way. After I'm done doing that, I'm just going to draw out that ½ inch, and I'll use a freehand sketch to connect. You can also use your French curve or pattern master to do that. So after I'm done connecting, next is to work on the other side. So since it's a Queen Anne neckline and that point is straight, I'm going to go ahead to mark a straight line. So between my armhole point and my bust circumference divided by 4, I'm going to go ahead to measure it and divide it by 2. And after that, I'll place my French curve and I'll connect it all the way down to the under bust this way. So from there, I'll just go ahead to blend this into that point at the armhole. So this is what I have, and you can decide to go down by ½ inch from your armhole or chest line area. So I'll go ahead to outline my cup this way, and after I'm done doing that, I'm going to go ahead to work on the neckline. So blend your yoke also. So from the shoulder, I'll come in by 3.5 inches, and at the lower part, I'm going to mark ½ inch away from the center, because if you look at the thumbnail, that is almost at the middle or like ½ inch away from the joining point. So now I'll mark 0.3 inches or 0.25 inches. This is just to make sure that the shoulder part will lap very well after making the dress, and I'll go ahead to connect the upper part of my dress. So now to make this a 3-part corset is just from this point I'll go up by ½ inch. So you can also leave it at your bust point or your chest line depending on how or whatever you want to create. But from what we have, the 3-part corset on top is a bit high, so that's why I went up by ½ inch from the chest line. So I'll go ahead and label the cup and the body. So to draw out the basque, I'll blend this in, and you come in at your waist. You can come in by 1 inch. So it's just because this pattern does not have a sewing allowance. If it has a sewing allowance, from your sewing allowance, just come in by 1 inch or 1.5, place and connect your basque. So if you notice, the basque on this dress is not too pointy, is a bit curvy at the lower part. So after that, I'll just go ahead to cut out my pattern. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up, and if you have any question concerning this pattern drafting, please leave it at the comment section. So this is the upper part, and we'll be moving to the back part of this pattern. So for this pattern, I've gone ahead to mark out all my basic measurements just like we did at the front, and for the neckline, I used 3 by 1.5 inches. So next, I'll still go ahead to mark my nipple to nipple on my bust span divided by 2, and I'll go ahead to connect a line. I'll mark ½ inch on both sides. So now the pattern for the back stops at the waistline, unlike the front part where we have a basque. The next step is to insert your measurement. Go ahead and mark your bust circumference divided by 4. My bust circumference is 33 divided by 4. I have 8.3, and I'll add my sewing allowance for the back pattern. So for this pattern, I didn't add my shoulder to under bust for the back. You can go ahead and leave it, but if you want to still mark it, go ahead and place your tape, measure your shoulder to under bust line, impute your measurement, and measure the dart intake there, replace it, and add your sewing allowance. So after that, I went ahead to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measured the dart intake, replaced it, and added my sewing allowance. So I went ahead to connect it all the way, and I'm going to draw this out. So from the neckline, I'll come down by 1 inch, and I'll be connecting this to my nipple to nipple line. So this is if you want a basic back. You can also use this to draw out your basic back for the corset, but for this particular pattern we are working on a Queen Anne neckline, which I'll be doing that later. So go ahead and take out 0.25 inches on the yoke, and at the lower part of your pattern I'm going to go down by ½ inch and connect it back to the chest line. So I'll be marking 1.5 inches all the way down. This is to mark the part for my eyelet. So in case you're wondering why I marked a basic neckline for the back, this is also for those who doesn't know how to mark this out. So later we'll be cutting this out as a Queen Anne neckline. So I'll go ahead to cut out the lower part first. Also, while you're cutting out, go ahead to notch the part that has your dart intake. So now we are going to go ahead to work on the neckline of this pattern. So what I'm going to do is, just like we measured 3.5 inches from the armhole side, I will do that, and I'll mark 3 inches at the lower part, and I'll go ahead to connect, and I will mark this out. So this is our Queen Anne neckline. You notice for the back is a little bigger than what we have at the front. At the lower part, this is also still okay. Now just note that your neckline, your yoke will be starting ½ inch after your dart intake. So for the back pattern, I'm going to go ahead to blend in the darts this way, and this is my back pattern. To mark the skirt pattern, the total length of my dress is 38.5 plus 1.5 inches folding allowance, giving me 40. So I'll place my tape starting from my waistline, which is 17 inches, and I'll go ahead to mark that 40 inches. So after marking that 40 inches, remember that I said the actual dress is 38.5 plus 1.5 inches, giving me 40. So I'll go up by 1.5 inches, which is the actual length, and the remaining part is my folding allowance. You can use 2 inches, 1.5 or more, but you shouldn't be more than 3 inches because it's a turn up allowance. So at the upper part, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4. So the waistline you're going to use is the snatched waistline. Remember, we took out 2 inches from our waistline. So after that, mark your sewing allowance and measure about 7 inches or 8 inches if you're on the taller side. I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll add 1.5 inches for my sewing allowance. This 1.5 is not a standard. I'm just using 1.5 inches. Now at the lower part, what I'm going to do is that 10 inches, that is my hip circumference. 40 divided by 4, I have 10 plus 1.5, giving me 11.5. So you're going to take out 2 inches from it, or 1.5, depending on how fitted you want the dress to, and I will go ahead to connect from that point down to the upper part. But what we have on the thumbnail is actually a long skirt, and I'll also be explaining how to achieve that. If you're making a long skirt, I prefer making a shorter dress. So if you're making a longer skirt, you will mark 2 inches above your knee point. So after that 2 inches above your knee point, this your hip circumference divided by 4 minus 2 inches that we marked at the lower line, that is where you start marking it from. So if you notice on my pattern, before I started connecting this point, I went up a bit, like 2 inches. So let me place my tape and show you. So this skirt is at my knee point actually. So you're going to mark 2 inches above your knee, and from that 2 inches you're going to mark your whatever you have on your skirt. You're going to take out 2 inches from it, or 1.5. You're going to connect it all the way down to the lower part of this skirt. So I don't know if I'm making sense, but if you have any question regarding that, you can leave the question on the comment section. So for the back, I went ahead to place the front pattern on it, and I added 1.5 inches in front and I traced out the side. So next I'm just going to slit this into two this way. So after I'm done cutting this out, so because this is for a corset and we are snatching the waistline, most times if you snatch your back, you notice that your skirt might be popping up. So I'll go down by 0.5 inches at the zipper line, the side going to the zip, and I'll take out about 0.25 at this place. So my zip will be relaxed after lacing at the back. So join us in the sewing tutorial that will be coming up next on our channel. Thanks.